Hey, Define Yourselfers! Are you seeking advice or assistance in starting or advancing in your professional career? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today on this episode of Live Confidently Autistic, the podcast. Live Confidently Autistic, the podcast, is the podcast that connects late diagnosed autistic adults with resources to rise above challenges and live confidently autistic. I'm your host, the Confident Autistic, aka Chris Mitchell. Are you in your sensory friendly space? Do you have your favorite comfort item nearby? Have you secluded yourself from distractions? Good. Let's dive in. Welcome into Live Confidently Autistic, the podcast, episode number 1, Career Coaching for Autistic and Neurodiverse Professionals with our guest, Jess Jarmo. The facts are this: the unemployment rate for neurodivergent adults is significantly higher than the general population, with some sources estimating it to be between 30 and 40%. This rate is roughly 8 times higher than for neurotypical individuals and can also be higher than for people with other types of disabilities. Specifically, studies on autistic adults generally show high rates of unemployment and underemployment. Some private estimates suggest as many as 85% of autistic adults may be unemployed or underemployed. October is National Disability Employment Month, and to help those of you who are job seeking, our guest today is redefining what career coaching looks like for neurodivergent professionals. Jess Jarmo is the founder of JessJarmo.com, where a team of expert coaches help clients find not just any job, but the right job. They specialize in job search strategy, executive functioning support, workplace sustainability, and long term career planning. From helping folks move off of PIPs, those are personal improvement plans, to land promotions and thrive in their roles. Just that it brings clarity, empathy, and real world tools to the table. Jess, welcome to Live Confidently Autistic, the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here and have a great conversation with you today.
How did you get involved in career coaching for neurodivergent professionals?
Yeah, great question. So, I'll tell you a little bit about my story and what that looks like is I always knew I was dyslexic, so I have that experience of being neurodivergent, and I didn't find out later on until I was in my 30s that I was ADHD. But I have a real passion for it. I have the education and the experience with struggling with finding the right job, getting fired. Um, I in my adolescence, high school, I didn't do as well. I graduated with a GPA that was, 1 point something, and got into one college, um, and ended up, I wanted to be a nurse, but I failed A and P, and I ended up getting an education, undergrad in education, and then I went and got a my MBA after that. I thought I wanted to be a teacher, but I really wanted to, help people in different ways and be in business. So I realized quickly that I wanted to make more money, and I also wanted to have kids and keep my sanity a little bit. So I ended up getting into recruitment and HR and all of that. And um, I really enjoyed in recruitment, and then also developing into career coaching, where when I was in recruitment, I was already um, coaching people in how to find that job. So um, having this struggle as well. So I was able to really improve my career after having bad experiences. So I actually got fired from one of my jobs, and it was probably for the best. And I ended up finding another job after that. I didn't realize I what kinds of accommodations I needed. I didn't know I was ADHD at the time, and it was toxic in work environment. So it's probably a blessing I got fired. And then I moved on to a new job, and I found my mentor. He actually almost fired me as well, and I ended up coming clean to him about being neurodivergent, and he was like, "All right, Jess, we're really going to figure this out." And he became my mentor. He helped me with executive functioning um, and like time management, task management. And I was able to excel in that company and make six figures. And he's still my mentor today. So, really understanding what it's like to be neurodivergent, having the education background in HR, the business background, and pulling it all together. And we get to be that person for our clients today and helping them succeed, whether it's finding the job or on the job support.
So, what are some of the challenges neurodivergent, neurodiverse typical types, in particular, maybe in particular, autistic adults face when it comes to seeking employment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are several different things that are challenges. So knowing that what jobs you're eligible for, how to apply, how to create that job search strategy and stay consistent. I would also say the interview is a big part of that. So um, creating that connection with the person on the other end of the interview. And what we do is we help people with those mock interviews, how to ask questions, how to listen to the structure of the conversation. So that can be hard, like knowing how the conversation is going to go, what to say, when to say it. I would say that one is probably the biggest.
Yeah, when I'm in a conversation, I hate small talk. Anyone who watches my YouTube channel, listens to this podcast, knows I think small talk is pointless, and I never know what to say, and it causes me a lot of anxiety because I never know what the other person's expecting from me. So yes, I can relate to that. That not knowing what to say or how to interact in a conversation is a challenge that many people who are neurodiverse do struggle with. We and or oversharing our special interest or being too quiet, all of this, and being judged or being profiled by how we present ourselves to others can be a challenge for many of us in the community. Now, you touched upon some of the ways that you help neurodivergent professionals find employment and get prepared for it, with mock interviews, etc. Are there anything else that you do or that you would help somebody who's neurodiverse who is job seeking?
Yeah, so what we do, we're helping people, we're talking about helping people find the right job. So, what we do is we work with our clients one on one, and we are virtual. So, we have conversations through video, and we also have material with step by step instructions on how to complete a task or whatever it is that you're working on. So we find that working with people who are neurodivergent, breaking it down into smaller portions to understand what you need to do is very helpful, as well as hands on support. So our coaches, we have several coaches, so we might be on a meeting and walk people through. So that is helpful. Um, and we work with our clients on um, choosing the right job. So let's say somebody is not sure what they want to do or they want to change careers. We help them figure that out. We help them with the interview, job search strategy. So, where do I look for these jobs? How do I do informational interviewing, networking to increase my chances of getting an interview? Follow up strategy, tracking where you're applying to, as well as, like we talked about, mock interviews, how to answer interview questions, what questions to ask, and also how to ask certain questions to get answers to see, is this the right fit for me? Because I think a lot of people are like, oh, somebody said, somebody offered me this job and I have to say yes. Well, you don't really have to say yes. Like, let's see, is this the right fit for you? So you're not going to get into this job and get overwhelmed, or is this the right manager? Do they understand, what your needs might be? And there's certain ways to ask those questions.
And that's an interesting point about, is this the right fit for you? Now, obviously, some of the points you brought up, is this the right manager to be working with, the right environment and culture within the business? We may be able to talk about that later. But even before you start that job search, shouldn't someone have an idea what would be a good fit for them? For example, one thing I love watching, I geek out on this at times. I love watching court trials. I don't know, I just do. And I find it fascinating how there are, because I like routines, how there's procedures and everything has a sequence in court, so you know what's coming up. And looking back at my life, I think I would have loved to went into law because there's so much procedure and the order and routines that you have. But I also know one way that I do mask is I goof around probably a little bit more than I should, and that's because I'm really anxious in most situations. And in courtrooms, judges don't like that too much. And then the other thing is, being a person who is autistic and has a problem of fawning at times, I would be concerned about if the judge reprimanded me or denied my objection and all. I may take that very personally, and how would I respond to that? And would I do something that wound me up in contempt of court? And I think I would probably have a lot of contempt of courts in my life. So, getting to the point here is, uh, we should know what would be a right fit type of job before we go job searching. Would you agree with that? And do you help clients discover that for themselves?
Yes, definitely. So we call it some of the non-negotiables. So what are the things that you need to have to be successful in your next job? So things like, do I need to work remotely? Do I need to be in the office? Um, are there certain types of accommodations, whether it's having a conversation with that company or not, but you know do I need it to be more of a quieter environment?
Hmm.
Does this environment have an open floor plan and there's nowhere for me to have, some space of my own
Right.
or take walks? Of course, you can use, noise canceling headphones, but what is important to you to be successful? And also, like I mentioned before, like what are the qualities of that manager that you want to have?
Hmm.
um, that's really important. So, for me, when I was talking about having that mentor, that makes or
Hmm.
breaks your job and your relationship with that company and being successful. Because if I didn't have that mentor, that person who I knew had my back as a manager, I don't think I would be as successful. Um, so, yeah, definitely there are non negotiables. There's even, there's salary, there's industry, there's location. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of different things that we go into there.
This sounds a little bit like dating, and where, um, when I'm married, and I have not dated since I got married because I like to keep all my stuff. I don't want to give half of it away to my wife. I love my wife, but I want to keep half myself and I want to keep her in my life. But when I was dating, I sat down and I thought, what are deal breakers? What are things that I want or need to have in a relationship? And what are things that if that person has, I don't want that person around me? And I'm not judgmental, but one thing for me, example, was somebody who drank. My father was a functioning alcoholic, and I watched him go through that and how that destroyed his marriage with my mom. And I did not want that to happen. So that was a deal breaker. So I made a list of the things that were deal breakers and what were must haves. And a lot of people when they're dating and they may do the same thing when they're job searching. I just want to I want to be with somebody. I want to have a job. And if you use that mentality, you're probably going to wind up with the wrong person or the wrong job for you. So you do want to, I'm guessing you're the expert here. You do want to set your parameters of what's acceptable and what isn't. So you're going to find a job you're going to succeed at and be gainfully employed there for as long as humanly possible.
Yeah, definitely. Something that you mentioned reminds me of um, having your must-haves as, do you want to work with a lot of people? Like you said,
Mhm.
like you're mentioning dating. So yeah, it's definitely similar to dating where you're on your best behavior and you're having a
Mhm.
conversation, and you want to put your best foot forward, but you also want to get information to make sure it's a good fit for you, and understanding beforehand too, do I want to be client facing versus not have any client interaction,
Mhm.
or maybe I need a combination of both of these types of things. What is your neurodivergent style, and what is going to excite you to get up in the morning?
Mhm.
What are those traits for your neurodivergent, whether you're autistic, dyslexic, ADHD, you have anxiety?
Mhm.
Um, and then what are the things that are really going to hold you back if you have those? And
Right.
how do we avoid those or minimize those types of interactions, or, you know, things that you have in your job?
And one of the things that we kind of touched upon, I wanted to just kind of bring it to the forefront of this conversation is you want to know what your sensory sensitivities are. And this is probably more particular for those that are on the spectrum. If you're sensitive to bright lights, you're going to want to make sure that you're in an area that you can adjust lighting, or you're not going to be underneath, a ceiling full of these fluorescent lights that bright and you hear the buzzing sound. You want to take in your sensory considerations, because if you do not do that and you get a job that um, is disrespectful to them. Not that they're being disrespectful intentionally, but does not, jive with your sensory challenges. You're not going to be happy there. You're probably going to not be there for a long amount of time. And having job after job after job with like only 3, 6 months, whatever, at each job does not look good on one's resume.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely doesn't look good on somebody's resume if they have um, jumped around, for sure. So making sure that this is the right fit is definitely going to help you succeed and build that amount of time and experience. And for sure, those sensitivity aspects is highly important. You know, it can be tactile, it can be lights,
Mhm.
where you're sitting, like, do you
Mhm.
have the same seat every time, or do you have the same area? Sometimes that change or moving around
Right.
is hard for people. They need to have, like, their desk in the same spot.
Hmm.
Is it loud? Is it too loud? And like you said, you're not a fan of that, bubbler talk type of thing, or
Hmm.
that, is there, you can kind of tell, is it, is that something that you're okay with sometimes? Like if you go into the office part time versus, staying at home and, working remotely.
Now, when we're looking for employment, what should we be looking for? And like warning sign, well, maybe not warning signs, but what should we be looking for that will indicate the company we're applying to is neurodiverse inclusive?
Good question. So I actually have a list of companies that are neurodiverse inclusive, and this is, um, it depends on
Hmm.
what type of inclusivity, right, or what
Okay.
they offer. So you can look on their website. They may have information on there. There are also, it's helpful. I know some people like AI and some people don't, but I use, ChatGPT or other sources.
Hmm.
Jan, Ask Jan can be helpful, but and having seeing articles if they're a big company. Seeing You can also look on LinkedIn. Do they do a lot of posting? Check
Hmm.
out, do they have a diversity and inclusion type of program? Do they offer any supports there? Um, have they written any articles on there? Um, and you can also see if that manager or recruiter that you are working with has, posted anything. It's LinkedIn and social media can be helpful as well.
Absolutely, it can be. And on the other side of the coin, what should we be watching for that may indicate the company is not neurodiverse inclusive?
So that's a good question. So if they're not, um, I would look for, so when you're having a conversation with these interviewers, if you get on the phone with them, maybe the way that they have a conversation around it. So if you're asking one of the questions at the end of an interview, um, and they're not directly answering your questions, like how do you, support diversity inclusion or type of program. So they might even, tell you. Um, but if they're indirectly answering your question, that's kind of a red flag that they don't have one. You can ask them if they have one. Um, so I would say you're going to get more information by talking to somebody, but they also, they may not have something on their website. That can be kind of give or take. They just might not have it on there. But being able to dive deep into asking questions and what they do.
Now, getting into the interview, uh, shouldn't an autistic person or anyone else who is neurodiverse, who is applying for a job, disclose they are neurodiverse, and why or why not during the interviewing process?
So during the interviewing process, it depends. It depends on the person. So disclosing that you're neurodivergent right away, like there's certain times that you can talk about it, right? So if you're having a hard time with the interview, um, it's a good idea to break the ice. So I always give this story that we want to make sure that the recruiter or the interviewer, the hiring manager, whoever's interviewing you, has uh, as much information up front. So if it's if there's a barrier where they're kind of confused, maybe are having a hard time answering questions or making eye contact or things like that, telling them before the interview can be helpful. And I give the analogy of when I was a recruiter, I had this interview and it was over the phone, and I'm asking this woman questions, and I'm hearing a delay in their answer, and then it sounds kind of robotic, and I'm very confused, and I'm focusing on what is going on more than the answers I'm getting. So I finally ask her, I'm like, hey, I'm hearing a delay and it sounds robotic. Is there something on your end? And she's like, I'm actually deaf and I am writing into a machine and then it spits out the answers to you. I'm like, oh, okay. So it had cleared up for me. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why. Now I can focus better on what you're saying. And
Mhm.
this woman was absolutely amazing. She did great work, and I actually was able to have a conversation with the manager, let them know what their interviewer would look like, and they loved her and they hired her, and she actually has a TED talk somewhere. But she, I give that analogy because giving interviewers the information up front really eases the tension. They can focus.
Hmm.
But it's also not like if you have great interviewing skills and it's not a problem to have conversation and there's not as much stumbling. I would
Right.
say that that is a later on type of conversation because it's not as pertinent at the moment. There's certain times, if you need more accommodations, you should, you know, if you're getting the job, you want to, um, sign on the dotted line and you can have a conversation about those types of things.
Because if you're having trouble expressing yourself, maybe you don't make eye contact or whatever. Sometimes I love what you did. You asked specifically, but not every recruiter or person interviewing you is going to ask you that. And they may start profiling or stereotyping you. So, from what I'm getting from you, it's up to each person whether they want to disclose that or not, how they disclose it, and all. Because there's also a risk that you disclose it even though they're not supposed to, there could be discrimination against you. And that's a big fear that a lot of people, whether neurodiverse or disabled, have when they go to a job interview.
Yes. So I would say education is key. In educating people about if you do disclose it, right? So it is,
Right,
it depends. And we work with our clients on like when it's actually necessary to
right.
disclose this. And I definitely agree on the discrimination. It can be discriminative towards, but in some instances, do you want to work there, right? If
Hmm.
they're discriminating against you already. But at the same time, you want to educate the interviewer on how amazing we are, right? Like
Hmm.
what are
Oh, yeah.
actually like, hey, just so um, asking open-ended questions might be a little bit harder for me to
Hmm.
answer. Can
Right.
you ask more specific and direct questions for
Hmm.
me and I can give you a great answer, but that's
Hmm.
going to help me give you all the information that I have to give. Um, and my strengths are in XYZ.
Right.
I'm really good at problem solving or whatever it is. So we want to
Yeah.
keep that amazing, you know, positivity light in
Right.
what we're saying.
Absolutely, because for many of us who are neurodiverse, we have what some of us call them superpowers. Like some people who are on the spectrum are very detail oriented, and they're going to be more detail oriented than some people who are neurotypical. And that could be a benefit for a company, especially you're hiring somebody who maybe is doing data entry. This is something that it would be a good thing for the company and for their growth and their success.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also you don't need to, if you just have trouble in answering those open-ended questions, you can even just ask, be like, hey, can you be a little bit more specific on what
Hmm.
information you'd like me to share? Uh,
Right.
type of thing. So it depends like case by case. And and we talk to our clients too about like how to ask those questions. You don't necessarily need to, tell them you're neurodivergent, but yeah.
And the thing that I don't think people realize at the time, because they're so nervous during the interviews, is they're asking this question, you're not understanding it, and you're afraid to ask them to be more clear. But
Mhm.
by asking to be more clear, you're showing them that you could be showing them that you're paying attention and that you are going to be the type of person who's going to be focused in on the details. So, and maybe it's not always best to cave into that fear and not say anything. Instead, step up and say something. One thing I believe in is I don't mind telling people I'm neurodiverse. I don't mind people can see I'm physically disabled. I have a rollator. I had an incomplete spinal cord injury. I don't care. And people say, well, you could get discriminated against. And yes, that can happen. Yes, companies do that. No company shouldn't. But if a company wants to discriminate against me, one, it's their loss, and two, it wouldn't be a good, healthy environment for me to be working at in the first place. So, each person's different, but for me, I don't mind disclosing that during the interview because that in my way is finding out this is even a place I want to be working at.
Yeah, agree 100% because Yeah, if they're already discriminating and they have a bias against you, yeah, you probably don't want to work there, especially if it's the manager that's interviewing you. Um, it might be a a toxic environment or not friendly. Um, yeah, for sure.
Now, what are some of the challenges autistic adults and other neurodiverse types face once they are employed?
Yeah, great question. So once they're employed, it is you know figuring out the rules, right? Of what are the expectations
Hmm.
of you know of the employee, of myself. So
Hmm.
I get employed. Um, what are my responsibilities? So what tasks do I need to complete each day? What are the priorities? Um, Also, asking for a one-to-one with your manager is really important. So you have clear expectations, follow up, um, and as well as time management, organization, the social aspect of it. So I think that, depending on your neurodivergence, you can, maybe get lost in some of the tasks that you need to do.
Hmm.
So being a little bit unorganized on what the actual priority is to get done and what can be done later on. So that's something, the task management, and then like the organization of your week, your hours, your day, um, and organization, as well as it trickles into life, right? So making sure that you have a routine in the morning, what is going to help you. So myself being ADHD, I know when I exercise in the morning, I have better focus. So what are some of those things that might help you with being more productive at work as well?
One of the things that's been in the news this year, and I try to stay away from politics because that's a great way to lose 50% of the audience, but there has been a rollback of DEI in a lot of places. How has the rollback of DEI impacted neurodiverse professionals who are employed?
Yeah. So I think that there has been some effect on DEI, and there has been some rollback. But I think that companies, I did some research, and I think it's 65% of companies who um, are either maintaining or improving DEI, and they're actually not calling it. They might just be rebranding it as something
Mhm.
else, to get out of the way of, politics. So
Right.
I do think, DEI and that kind of support isn't going anywhere. I think that it is being recreated where we're still going to be able to support people. It just might be rebranded a little bit. But I believe that DEI is very important for education purposes, um, through like all inclusive, right? So
Right.
educating people with who are neurodivergent, but also people who are not neurodivergent. And this is something that I'm passionate about, is educating managers, right, on how do we manage or communicate with people who are neurodivergent, whether you know that they are or not. Like this could be, asking people what is the best way of communication for you. So, email, phone calls, texting, or chats, things like that. So um, there there's definitely room for improvement as well.
Mm.
So yeah,
Nothing's perfect. Everything can always be tweaked to be made better. That's what
yeah,
I believe. Okay, I have an important question here for you. I am a late diagnosed autistic professional. And let's say I reached out to you for help in maybe a job search or anything in my professional career. Would you walk us through uh, what to expect from my first contact with you, through what to expect through the process of supporting me through my job search and beyond.
Yeah, of course. So, what we do is we offer a free strategy call with our enrollment coach, and we discuss what your goals are, what you're looking for, what you're struggling with, your challenges, and you know, you're asking us questions as well, making sure it's a good fit for you, it's a good fit for us, and we set you up with our one of our career coaches, and we create goals, expectations. What are the things that is important to you? And being the coach, how are we going to support you? So we're creating a plan. We are working one on one, typically for 1 maybe 2 hours a week, depending on what your needs are. Um, we have material that you have full access to, so we're assigning material. We are um, creating a tracking support tool, so we're writing down goals. We are documenting applications. So we're working with a job search strategy, interviewing, um, tracking, and setting goals there. Once you find the job, we can transition you into on the job support with setting you up with uh, expectations for task management, organization, communication with your manager. We will also work with managers if they're open to it. We do have some clients that we work with the managers. We'll send information or have a group conversation, and we'll also help plan the um, your career beyond, like, you have this job, that's great. So what do you want to do long term? Like 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 15? What does that look like? And how do we prepare for that?
And that first initial contact and even the coaching sessions, for want of a better word, are those done via phone, Zoom? How do you do that with people? Because I know you work remotely, so it does not matter where you are in the United States. You can be our viewers, listeners can be a client of your services.
Yeah, so we work with anybody all over the US, and we work through video conversations. We do have um, occasional people who want to have a phone call. So we will do that.
Hmm.
But if we're sharing information, it is important to be able to share your screen and things like that. So typically
Right,
Zoom.
right. And it's good experience if you're neurodiverse and you're a little uncomfortable interacting with people face to face. This is a great way to work through those challenges and become more comfortable with interacting with people.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, tell us about the offer you have for our audience who is watching this conversation on YouTube or Spotify or listening on other podcast player platforms, including Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, so we offer working with our clients to find the right job, choose the right job, and job sustainability for neurodivergence. So people who are dyslexic, ADHD, anxiety, autism, and we work, one on one with our clients, and we work with them typically 4 months up into a year or more, depending on what they're looking for. So we create a really great connection with our clients. Gain trust, empathy, and also have that educational background and coaching, and having material that can support your success. Mhm.
And how can people connect with this offer from you?
So you can go to jessjarmo.com. You can look at our services there, but you can also book a free strategy call with one of our enrollment coaches.
And that's Jess, Jess, and I don't have it in front of me. Can you spell the rest of that for me, please?
That's JESSJARM as Mary O.com.
Awesome.
JessJarmo.com.
Yeah. And all the links that are mentioned on today's podcast are in the show notes of video description. So you don't need to worry about, if you're watching or listening to this, don't need to worry about typing that out or writing it down. I put it into the show notes for you. So it's easy for you to do that. Click on that when we're done with this episode. Is there anything else you'd like to add that I did not cover that you feel our audience needs to know about today?
Good question. So there is something that we are doing with, what is it called? DVR or vocational rehabilitation. So each state has a vocational rehabilitation services. So services that the state helps with anybody who's disabled. And they will help with career coaching, but we've partnered with them with a few states that actually pay for our services. So right now we're working with Colorado, and we have another as well as California. So if you're a part of these, that could be another option, because it can get, life's expensive. But if you have a relationship with another state, we are definitely willing to have a conversation with that state as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. But if you're serious and you're professional, sometimes you have to invest money in yourself to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Well, thank you, Jess, for joining us today on Live Confidently Autistic, the podcast. And best of luck to you with the work that you're doing. It's very important work for the neurodiverse community, and we appreciate what you do for our community.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate being here.
All links mentioned in this episode are in the show notes and video description. Now it's your turn. Share your horror job story or your successful job experience in the comments. We're available. We would love to hear your experiences. You can show your support for this podcast by liking, sharing, and subscribing today. And don't forget to visit my website, theconfidentautistic.com, for more resources to help you understand autism and build self-confidence. And while you're there, download my free resource, Live Confidently Autistic, a guide to understanding yourself and building confidence. Do it now. Your future autistic confident self is waiting to thank you. Until next time, this is a Confident Autistic reminding you to rise above challenges and live confidently autistic.